So this is Fritz Campbell. We're on Blessings Part 2, 2 of 12. And I think I say 12 because it's a good number. And I like my videos short and sweet. And hopefully we'll make a couple of good points. My ADHD brothers out there will appreciate 10-minute videos. And we'll get the meat delivered as the Lord wants it delivered. So we finished up with, the beginning of really the authority that we have been given by the use of our tongue. It's funny how quite often in the secular world, the natural, we get told things all the time, and we just automatically jump in line. We believe that. Recently, scientists tell us that this thing about matter and antimatter, and from Star Trek, it's really true, and that right now in this room, there's more matter and energy that I can't see or feel or in any way measure, but that it's actually here. And society, and the people in the are like, oh, wow, that's cool. No doubts, no worries, no fears about that, which seems pretty fantastical, but yet true. But yet we want to say that the universe, much of society will tell you that you're alone, that you're a blip, you're an accident of nothing formed something, and then it became something, and then it morphed, and the next thing you know, there was planets and people on it, which that seems more far-fetched to me than the alternative. There's a trillion little protein synthesis factories in your body right now, making little machines, putting these proteins together in different combinations to work all the functions of your body. And I love the thing, the 100 trillion year big universe, but yet that's accepted, but yet that there's a God that created all outside of that seems too fantastical. I've always thought that was weird. That one was so easily accepted and the other not so. So back to blessing. We'll just get back to the practicum. Practicum, I think is the right word. So so society will tell us things, yet the Bible will say the same things or different, and we'll so often accept. One of my favorite ones is Cosmopolitan put out, they didn't do the study, but it's like, women need love and men need respect. And everyone was like, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The Bible says the same thing, but nobody wants to fall in line. The Bible instructs, my grandmother, Granny Girl, I used to call her, said that putting the spiritual aside, the Bible is the greatest how-to live book that there is. If you're going to put together a wooden desk and paint stain and do all the carpentry work, you either have somebody do it for you, you're going to do it yourself, you get a carpenter book. And the word says, women, love, honor, and obey your husbands, which Cosmopolitan calls respect. The word says, husbands, love your wives as the weaker vessel, cherish her, and love her like Christ loved the church. Now, we'll get excited and women will get their head bent out of shape about the first part, but not now going into what the man's direction for, because that's not all. He's to love her as Jesus loved the church, which he took a torturous death for. And love her like, because remember it said, husbands, love your wives, cherish them. Paul later tells us what love is. And it has nothing to do with emotion or sex. Sorry. It says love is patient and bears all, endures all. It doesn't keep a list of wrongs. Doesn't self-promote. Is calm, rational thinking, kind. Wow, that's a lot. And so men, your direction is to be loving. And that's those characteristics all the time when your significant other doesn't appear to be behaving in such a way that you would want to be loving at that moment, to the point of death. So society will say it, but the Word is telling us these kind of things. So back to blessing, the Word says that you've been given the power to bless and curse. Choose life. He laid it before you. Again, earlier we talked about what goes around comes around, or creating your energy aura, or karma. The Word says that what you say matters. Society has told us what you say matters, right? Anybody heard of Napoleon Hill? He wrote Think and Grow Rich. And if you haven't heard of him, he, well, you should read it. But Carnegie, the billionaire from early 1900s, steel magnate, I think, finds Dale, and he's commissioned Dale Carnegie commissioned Napoleon Hill to interview the great producers, that 1% producers in the world, in any profession, and interview them and find out what the seeds are, right? I mean, the intelligent group, we go to college and grab the 10 smartest, and a couple of them are going to be dead at 60, and 5 or 6 of them are just not going to make it, and a couple of them are going to do well, and one of them is going to do fantastically, right? Those are born out over and over again. So why? What? And yet we'll grab 10 of the poor and the uneducated, or the less than satisfactory upbringing, and we'll do that same study, and a couple will be dead, and 4 or 5 of them are struggling. A couple of them, be relatively well off, and one of them will have done great things out of 100, So he writes this book. He studies for 40 years, I believe, and writes this book. And I remember the first time I was reading, I was like, man, I'm excited about good Lord, what's this guy figured out? What's he found out, right? And he's got 17 laws, and the first one is thoughts are things. And this is before my spiritual days. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Thoughts are things. But I kept reading. And basically he's saying, what the Word says, right? That God thought it and spoke it, and it came into creation. And he's given us that mini power, right? Nothing man has ever accomplished wasn't a thought first, and had to withstand all the naysayers and all the negativity and all the problems, and had to continue believing, I'm making a plane, we're going to fly, or I'm making a motorized car, or I'm going to solve polio, right? Any of those things. I'm going to be a star. I'm going to get out of this ghetto. I'm going to, right? They follow the dream. Think about it, 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 right? Thoughts are things. One of my favorites are, and this is sort of blessing, but this is more like self-blessing and dreaming. They asked Derek Jeters in the